Hello everybody, Mr. Pilgrim here coming at you with the 9th video in our Platinum Trophy Guide for the last hero of Nostalgaia. In the last video we'd gone through and showed you how to remember every single weapon and armor in the game, all of their locations and all of the ones that are tied to other ones and all of that. And in this video, what I'm going to show you is how to speedrun the game or complete the game in under 5 hours, as well as how to beat all of the bosses without summoning anybody. So in order to do that, you have to do the Innocent Ones quest line, which I do. Now for how I went about doing this was I watched a bunch of speedruns that I could find of the video, and I tried to use them as ways of routing how to quickly get through each area and how to grab all the important items that I would need, as well as what is the best class and what just makes the game easier. Now, I do die a bunch of times in this guide. I am going to leave everything as is. I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to turn out until it happens, but I will be doing a voiceover to try and explain everything as I'm going through it. And I do try and segment the video, and I'll explain that in just a moment, but I try to make it as easy as possible to follow and understand. And even with my deaths, it's still achievable to get both the speedrun and the PvE mode in one playthrough. So pretty much what I mean when I said segment is that so I do one specific area, like let's say the Hall of Heroes and then Orshaft Village, and then I would clip that, and then I would quit out of the game to watch what the next part is done in the speedrun. That way I would know what to do, and then I would just rinse and repeat and follow that. And then I would also have to remember to grab the Edge of Entropy in Orshaft Village and the Chrysalis Tooth in Festivity Row, and to remember those, and to do the Innocent Ones and the Old Crone's quest line in order to get all of the secret bosses as well, because you do have to do the secret bosses for PvE mode to count. But like I said, I'm going to do a voiceover for all of that, so you guys can kind of get an idea of what I'm thinking, my explanations of what's going on, why I'm doing what I'm doing, as I'm going through it. Like I said, I'm not sure how long that's going to be, but like always, I do hope that it does help you guys in any way, shape, or form. And I will leave a link to the speedrun that I used for my layout and weapon class and all of that. Now, in his speedrun, he does skip Nom, the consumer, but like I said, since we're doing all bosses, I'm going to fight them anyways. Hopefully you guys can learn some things from my mistakes, and yeah, we'll just jump right into it. Alright, so as you can see, I'm starting off with a brand new save, and we are the Sorcerer, and basically the idea is just to pump all of our stats into the resource. That way we have the most amount of damage coming from our spells. Now, as you can see, I am going to be running through most of this and just grabbing the important items. Aside from the speed run, there are a few things that I do try and do to play it safe and to kind of give myself a little bit more of an edge as I'm going through this. The main idea is that I want to grab as many extra souls as I can and to grab actual upgrades for the weapon that I'm going to be using. You never know when that damage might just save you in a pinch. Now, there are some areas where I might try and kill a couple of enemies to get some lucky access drops. As you'll see right here, I got lucky. Now, that's not always going to be the case going into this, but you never know when it might happen. But for the most part, overall, it is pretty straightforward. Like I said, I'll try and point out everything as I'm going through this. That is definitely going to be well over an hour long, so just bear with me on that regard. But coming up here as we're going through, once you reach this sentry here, just on the left, we'll grab our first actual upgrade item, a Sliver of Tradition. We'll grab more of those along the way, and I'll point those out. And do note that once you reach certain areas that have cutscenes, all enemies will de-aggro, which is pretty nice, and can save you in a pinch if you know it's about to happen. There's only a few instances where this will happen though, so we'll just keep that. So I immediately grabbed the Locksmith's Serrated Saw as we need it to actually progress. light the beacon because we have to, and then we'll just go from there.
By the Almighty.
After we get
Impossible.
scolded by the narrator, who we'll eventually come around to and deal with.
What in the...
But for the most part, like I've said, I do die at least, I think, 5 or 6 times throughout this run, and I do include all those, just to show you guys that it is possible. Here we grab some more access along the way, and here we're going to take on the first boss of the game. And we will eventually be coming back to fight him again, so don't worry. We'll settle the score.
No.
But overall, as you'll see from just the starting class, no change of weapon or anything, the actual ability that we have is really good. Now, I normally wait to use it until about phase 2. As you'll see, once he kneels down, that's when I'll just back all the way away, and then I will start firing the arrow. If we're lucky, he'll mainly just go for this ranged attack right here, and that will allow me to just pelt him all the way. As you'll see, it does decent amounts of damage to him, and it allows us to stay at a distance. But after a bit of time, he does go down. Like I said, whenever you have the opportunity to, just fire one off. In some cases, you can actually bait them into doing an attack, and then go ahead and use it. And then obviously I want to save on my access, so I just finish him off with one more R1. And then we wait for the door to open so we can proceed forward. After a bit of time, as you can see, I'm getting a little impatient and I'm ready for this door to be open. We'll get the Shield of Inspiration, which I think is the main shield I use throughout all of this run, for the most part. I then make sure to just swap both my weapon and shield. Now, the weapon we have, we're not going to keep for long. We'll have it for one more boss, and then we're going to swap it once we're in Festivity Row.
The narrator, never confused, was...
But from here, we have to make our way to Heartflow Altar, and then we will proceed by getting our ability to remember items, which will remember both the weapon and shield while we're here before we move on.
Look up at
Now, like I said, we're going to be doing all bosses, so we're also going to be doing the Innocent Ones questline. That's the only NPC questline we have to do in order to achieve all bosses. Now, we don't need to actually complete the last bit of it in order to have him join us for the last boss. We can just bypass that altogether, but we just need to get to that point. Now, from here, like I said, I remember it, and then before, you want to make sure that you see the gate start to open before I head down and remember the Shield of Inspiration here in the heart. Now, you have to remember this exactly like right up against it. As you'll see, once it's vibrating, you're good to go. Now, there are at least 3 more weapons that we are going to learn, as we need to learn them or remember them in order to progress the story. So from here, we can now just make our way through Orshaft Village. Since I know the game is loading, I just take out this enemy. That way he doesn't just ambush me from behind to deal damage. As you'll see, compared to if you do a normal full playthrough of the game, speedrunning is a little bit more different. Now, I'm not a professional speedrunner in any means. I am amateur at best, but I do think I did my best and made it as safe as possible for you guys. So coming here into Orshaft Village, we're just going to, instead of heading to the left to grab the beacon, we'll immediately just progress through Orshaft like normal. But we are going to duck over here to grab our only set of armor we're going to grab throughout the run. Now, the main thing that you want to try and go for whenever you're doing any of the equipping or consuming the souls is just whenever you have downtime, like you're waiting, you need to ride an elevator, or you need to wait for certain things to happen, like the loadings, as you'll see. That is probably the best time to do that. So while we're coming back here, I am going to grab the shortcut though, as it will come in handy later on. But then the rest of this is pretty much business as usual. I do succeed in grabbing this fireplace stone just over here, as we'll immediately be using that once we get to the top section of Orshaft Village, just before the depths. Now, ducking in here, we can grab a consumable, and then just outside here of this area is where we grab the Edge of Entropy weapon that we need for the Innocent Ones questline. Now, like I said, I do play it safe, and what I end up doing is I unlock the blacksmith just right here in Orshaft Village. Like I said, certain things will cause a cutscene, and that will despawn enemies. Or, not really despawn, but reset enemies, and as you'll see, we get a cutscene here for picking up the blacksmith's hammer, and we are going to remember it while we're here. As you'll see, this will then eventually allow us to summon a blacksmith at certain locations found throughout. Like I said, upgrading your weapon can sometimes be helpful, and I'm just trying to do my best to ensure that the run goes as best as possible. So after this happens and we talk to him, I'll then grab our second upgrade material after I make sure he's repeating, just here in this back room. Ta-da! And I'm going to heal up just to be on the safe side. Then from here we're basically just going to end up making our way through Orshaft like normal in the fastest way that we can. For the most part, Orshaft is pretty bare bones. I do stop inside on this left area to grab a couple extra things. Another 3 memories of an NPC and another fireplace stone. You wouldn't think that these consumables would really add up over the span of the run, but they do. So as you can see, now that I've made everybody mad, it makes it a lot easier to just dart past them. These are the enemies I'm worried about the most. They're basically the dogs of the game, and they are the most annoying. Here on the right, we grab another memory of an important NPC, and then we are more or less just running through everything. Sorry about the sniffles. Here we unlock a shortcut that I forget to use later on that is actually quite helpful.
Suddenly,
Poor me.
a cow.
Now do note, if you are too close, you can get hit by that cow and it will deal source damage to you, which is just great. But anyways, coming up here, we then run past the arena guy and make our way up. We are going to be ignoring the Reservoir of Pain for the entire story until the very end. Then from here we're going to just run through and make our way to the depths.
The lanky bundle wobbled and climbed, ever eager to reach some height unsuited to it.
Once we make it though, we'll then activate this beacon, that way we have our next checkpoint to warp back to, which will definitely come in handy. Then from here we grab some useless items. I always forget what's what whenever I was doing this, but you never know until you grab it. And what's a second or so loss on a casual speedrun. Now from here we're actually going to grab a sliver of tradition and actually make a risky jump all the way down to this roof. And the reason why we do that is to get an NPC zone boss soul. Then we use a fireplace stone to immediately warp back to the beacon that we just lit. Now you would think that that soul wouldn't be that worth it, but it really is. Trust me. I think from the speedrun to mine, if you do a comparison, I have almost 10 or so levels on him in certain areas, just because of me picking up extra souls along the way and me doing some side stuff that kills some enemies and gets me some more souls. I'm just going to refer to it as if it's like Dark Souls, so you'll have to forgive me. But here we're going to switch segments. Like I said, whenever I was watching the speedrun, when I'd reached a certain point that I was about to do, I would then watch it through, stop it, and then proceed to do it on my own. So now we're finally got our armor equipped. The game does have some frame rate issues in some areas. It's probably just me. But for the most part, the depths is actually one of the shorter areas that we go through, at least for the most part. And just up here we have another sliver of tradition. Then I end up just grabbing these two items here. Another fireplace stone, because you never know when that might come in handy. We're going to take this right-hand path that leads up, as it's the fastest path to the beacon with the least risk to us. We pick up the chainmail code, and it's just because I was running through and I said, why not? I don't ever actually use it. But from here we make a quick and swift getaway to reach the beacon, as you'll see. I do apologize for the sneezing and sniffling. I've got a runny nose and it's not doing me any favors. But we have this guy showing up who I more or less just decide to deal with in the heat of the moment and kind of get my ass handed to me a couple times. But as you can see with this shield, we basically take no damage from blocking, as it is 100% physical guard. I do think that there is one other shield that we could have gotten if we really wanted to, but I think it would have been just a little bit too much out of the way at the moment just to go do, and that is the Shield of Nostalgaia from the merchant in Orshaft Village. We picked up the minnacles that we could have given him just outside of the depths, but like I said, I just think it was a little too much. So now we're going to be heading on down to take on the second boss of the game. Now this is where I have my first death of the run, sadly. I get a little greedy and then I get caught out, and you'll see pretty soon.
Such would reveal the futility of everything an old man and some sticks sought to prove.
But once we make it, as you'll see, it is a group boss at first. Now at first the weapon is doing pretty well considering it's able to hit multiple enemies, but the downside is its range, as you'll see. If I had maybe the strength, I'd go for my normal weapon, and as you see, just like that, I quickly die. 18 minutes, or not 18 minutes, 15 minutes into the run, which is perfectly okay. I forget the 3 minutes of the intro at the start. But yeah, 15 minutes in, a death isn't too bad. Like I said, I'm not a professional speedrunner. I'm not trying to go for a world record or anything. It does feel a little painful when you have a death pretty early on. But don't worry. As you'll see from all of my deaths throughout this, it can be a lot worse. And you guys can probably do a lot better than me. But the whole point of this is just to make a average speed run that goes through and shows you the route to run, what to grab. Now, if you can find a build that works for you in doing this, then by all means. If source and using that isn't your jam, completely understandable. You don't have to use the build that I use, but I just, after watching a couple of speedruns, I found that this is the one that I think was going to give me the most amount of freedom to get through certain bosses a lot faster. Even with dying, the damage output is still decent for the most part. So as of now, on the second attempt, I'm trying to go for more secured damage opportunities. As you'll see, the range on this sword really showing, but it's best to try and get one to attack, get as close as you can, because as you can see, it can stagger them more or less so they can't really retaliate against you. It's just if one of the other ones happens to hit you, then it kind of sucks. Now, as you'll see, I accidentally fired one of my bullets whenever I was trying to wait. If you're lucky, those standard NPC type enemies can drop access, which is pretty good. That will save you some time later on. So during the second phase of this boss fight, I'm more or less trying to do something different, or something similar to what I did against the Spirit of Heroism. I'm just trying to use my Source ability, as you'll see, as it's doing quite a lot of damage to him. Basically, like I said, the best thing to do is just bait attacks and then get the secured damage. Now in phase 3, what I try and do is I try and take out the big guy first. As you'll see, I immediately try and lock onto him and hit him with some of these homing arrows. I do get a little greedy right here, but luckily they're still spawning in, so I'm just fine. And then you also want to make sure that you're aware of the terrain, as it can get in the way. But as you'll see, after you take out enough of or deal enough damage to the big guy, he'll go down and is no longer an issue. I think it's 2 more? No, 1 more. And then because I've used all that I want to, I'm basically just going to melee the rest of these guys down. And as you'll see, it's still risky, but we are going to get it done on our second attempt. Now, if you're just trying to go for just the speed run, there is a way you can make this faster, as you can hit the NPC dude in Orshaft Village standing by the light post in the full armor. If you hit him, that will move him to just before this boss fight, and will allow you to have him join you for it in case you're struggling. I didn't know that until I watched the speedrun of them doing that, and I just thought it was crazy. I was like, what? Now, as you'll see, I am pretty low here, so I do try and get some distance to grab this access, because like I said, any and all access we can get without having to dedicate time to killing enemies is time saved. And then just like that, they go down, and we get 2 more drops, saving us a bunch of time overall. And then position myself next to the exit to try and get a quick escape, or be ready as soon as the cutscene is over. But second boss down, we've only got so many more to go. Now, whenever I was going into this, probably the biggest concern for me was the next boss, Nom the Consumer. I don't know why, he was always a struggle for me. But with this build, as you'll see, it actually isn't even that bad at all to deal with him, which is crazy to think about. But I do decide to get a safety beacon rest just because I want to reset my health and my heals, because you never know what might happen. And as you'll see, I'm going to put basically all of my points into Source. And then while we're at it, I'm going to return the icon to give myself another healing. So now, once again, we're just going to be running through the second half of the depths to get out. Not too much to really worry about and deal with in this second half. The only issue is this water making you fat roll or just move slow in general. It's not fun. I grabbed these gold coins. I'm never going to use them. Like I said, if I just happen to be running through it, by all means. I do specifically grab these 5 fireplace stones just to have a surplus, because, like I said, you never know when you might need them. In case you accidentally forget to grab some later on. But from here, like I said, we're just running through. I remember what that item is, so I'm just like, nope, forget it, I don't need it. And it's pretty much just a mad dash all the way up. Like I said, we're not really concerned about trying to fight any of the enemies. We're just concerned about getting through the game as quickly as possible. As casually as possible, I should say. Not as quickly. As casually as possible within the 5 hours that we're given. Now, the trophy won't pop until you actually achieve one of the 2 endings. Now, since we're already going for all bosses as well, because we're doing the PvE trophy, we're going to get the same ending that we got at the end of episode 7. But once we're out, as you'll see, I activate the train, and then I realize, why not? It's just going to be a little bit of damage. As you'll see, yeah, just a little bit of damage. Nothing too crazy. But here on the left, we have our next sliver of tradition, as you'll see. These are just the upgrade materials. And we'll be making our way through Festivity Row. For the most part, like as you can see, we just run past everything. Now, do remember that this is the next area where we do have to grab a specific weapon that is needed in order to progress the Innocent Ones questline. But we don't even start that questline until Warlock's Wild. So for now, just hang out. Just remember, I will point it out when we get to it, so don't worry. Like I said, I'm going to show you everything. So we'll take a quick rest here just to reset everything. Then we'll grab our next sliver of tradition just outside here on the balcony. And just like before, we're just going to run past everything. Like I said, we are going to be getting our actual weapon. Was not ready for him to hit me there, and I was not ready for this guy to get a grab on me. Just trying to grab that consumable. But as you can see, things don't always go that well. But from here we make our way up.
The sliver persisted onward, witnessing what nostalgaia might once have
We'll
been.
grab 10 access here, which is really good for us as we need as much as we can get. We'll grab an NPC zone boss, which gives us quite a lot. Then just here on the right is our weapon of the run, the Brain Piercer. Now this is one item that we can remember, I believe, whenever. But coming in here into the giant spiral room, we'll grab another NPC consumable. And then we'll make our way down. Now there is shortcuts that you can take in some areas to quickly get through the game if you're trying to speedrun it as fast as possible. I would, like I said, just casual. I'm just going to run through like normal. I'm not going to try and do any weird stuff that most people wouldn't know how to do, and I would have to dedicate more time to learn how to do. So I figured it's just best to just do a run through. Now if you want to grab the shortcut door on the right that we just passed, you can, just for safety. If not, you can just do what I'm doing, because for the most part there is another big shortcut we can grab. So coming out to the bottom here, we have this NPC soul right here that I grabbed. And once at the top, we'll just ignore Vengeance and be on our way. Here we go. Nothing too crazy going on. Like I said, we're just grabbing what we need. Now, right up ahead here, we have a left and right path to take. We're first going to go to the right to grab the Chrysalis Tooth, which is the second weapon that we need to grab out of 3 total. The first one was the Edge of Entropy, which we already have. Once we have that, though, we can just turn around and head to the opposite end, and this will allow us to grab some more souls and items. Coming inside here onto these rafters, we'll then just make our way over to the left over here to grab another consumable, as you'll see right here, and then we'll immediately drop down. Now, I do get careless in the area, as you'll eventually see as I get grabbed like multiple times by these guys, and it really sucks. As you'll see right here, I'm just trying to grab this item, but he's like getting right in my way, and with multiple of them, I quickly just go for the grab and try and get out before they kill me. Try and keep my back to them to see when they're getting close. I had thought I'd gotten just barely enough away from him. Here I try and make the mistake of fighting these guys and almost paying the price. So I decide it's not worth it and I'm just going to get out. So from here, as you can see, we make our way through. And we get the big shortcut opened up at least to make our life that much easier. Coming down here though, we then can, as you'll see, I don't know why I'm trying to fight these guys. It's just going to end in me dying. But I think I eventually have enough, and yeah, I started using my source ability to get some of my souls back, and then some. And even then, I still get grabbed. Main reason why I even opted for allowing this is just because of how many extra I got back. Here I try and see if I can maybe speedrun through this area, and no, I still end up dying. And yeah, death number 2. Like I said, I think there's at least like 6 that happened. That one, I just got greedy. If at any point you think you're about to die and enemies are getting a little too close, you can always quit out to reset them. You'll stay in the same area and they'll just go back to where they were, thankfully. So as you'll see, we'll just be back at the beacon and then we can just run down and take the major shortcut. And then we still get grabbed again. It is just not fun. But we do at least get 5 access back. I decide I've had enough of these knife throwing guys. I'm going to come deal with this one and almost risk dying and losing everything anyways. Because he gets healed back up. And just like that. I don't know why I grabbed that rune. It's absolutely pointless for the run that we have. But from here we have our next ability that we've learned, and that is to unprez things. Basically anything that is glitching out or acting weird, we can return it to normal. Now do note that skipping all these NPC fights won't ruin the boss fight later on, thankfully. So running past them is perfectly fine. Now once here in the quest reward vault, there's only a few things we're going to end up grabbing while we make our way through. The first one is right here. And then I decide to remember the brain piercer and fumble it a little bit. The damage output overall isn't really the greatest thing. It's more or less what its extra ability is that is great. As from what I've understood, once you hit them and mark them with that, that means that they'll take more source damage, I believe. Because I think normally they take way less source damage, but now they're like weakened to source because of it being remembered and being a bonus stat of the brain piercer. I could be entirely wrong, but that was just what I was getting from it from using it. But from here, we immediately put our upgrade materials to use. Like I said, in the speedrun, they normally just run past this. But for me, I'm going to play it safe and summon him and upgrade my weapons.
Wow, we would not call it. Well, I'll aid.
Also want to make sure you don't upgrade the wrong weapons.
If you find it,
We can only get 2 upgrades before we have to move on, but then we pretty much just run right on through the quest reward vault. Grabbing another fireplace stone. I don't think we need any more, but I think I still pick up some. I never use a Legend of Independence in this run, so it's just entirely pointless. Once again, I try and grab these souls just up here, but I end up missing because there's a message that I ended up reading instead right in front of it. So I'm then trying to deal with this guy right here, hoping I can maybe squeeze through, but he won't let me. I thought maybe he backed up. Nope, still won't. Here I thought I was just far enough away, but I still just took damage. So I eventually realized I'm just going to have to let him reset. After a certain amount of time, you'll see him poof back to his starting position, which will then allow me to come out, grab the soul, and then make my way. It was still really close. Then from here, we're basically just going to run past everything, and then we will have to do a save quit out just to get this beacon right here. As you'll see, if you can't light it, that means enemies are nearby, and they're too close to you in order to do that. So if you just simply do a quit out, then you are good to go. As you'll see, it'll reset everything like so. And there we go. Now I decide I'm going to spend and use all of the souls I've picked up to get some more levels that will be necessary. There we go. And then, like I said, we're just putting them all into source.
The narrator had taken to scathing others in his duress.
Now from here, we can make our way over to the third boss of the game. Like I said, going into this is one of the 2 at first that I was most concerned about. And that was just because in a casual playthrough, his attack patterns and his moves were just a little too fast for a casual playthrough. Here we grab an actual decent rune, and that is going to be reduced stamina, or I think it's increased stamina regen, or reduced stamina use. Either way, it just affects your stamina. So here we have our third boss, Nom. Definitely a mixture between Ornstein and Smo at the same time. He's fast and agile, but big and tanky. Now, like I said, in the speedrun, they actually do a skip to not have to do this fight. As you'll see from this alone, the damage is really good. But like I said, for the most part, it's just I get too greedy and then I make a mistake, and that's what leads to me basically dying, sadly. But once you get him to phase 2, you basically want to make sure you take out his clone that he summons, otherwise the clone will never stop attacking you. I pick up the access that his clone dropped though, as it'll make your life a little bit easier. Like I said, with Nom you can kind of bait him into attacking, but you just want to keep a decent distance that he does so and then allows you to heal. And as you'll see, I wasn't able to get my shield up in time to block the attack, and I ended up dying. That is the third death of the run, sadly. But that's perfectly okay. So now that you know that it's achievable, we are going to achieve it and make our way through to Warlock's Wilds. Obviously, I'm not going to skip it, of course, but still. Once everything loads, that is also the biggest issue with certain aspects of the game, is just the loading. You know, you're sitting there trying to speedrun something, but it's just not loading fast enough. So this time I'm now prepared and ready to go. As you'll see, the shield can basically tank all of his attacks and be just fine. But as you'll see, he's just a little too nimble and agile, and his moves are definitely not fun to deal with in some regards. But as long as you have good stamina management, then he should be fine. As you'll see, I was trying to save all of my source abilities until the second phase, just because I had used so many on the first attempt that I wanted to save as much as possible. Since I know it is phase 2, I'm more or less trying to once again deal with the clone, but this time not die to the clone, or die after taking out the clone. Once I know I can at least maybe trade, I go for a heal. Then I try and get a good bait, but no, go for some damage. I got really lucky there, and then very unlucky. Now you also want to be careful when he pulls his weapon out of the ground. Here I'm baiting him for an attack so I can heal. Then once again I'm going to do the same. Now I'm just trying to grab the access. As you'll see, the source damage does quite a lot to Nom. I think I've said it wrong so many times now, and that's okay. And there we go. Third boss defeated.
Again,
We've only got like 5 more to go.
Nostalgia's heart open a little more. Those who had long
Now, thankfully, Warlock's Wilds is more or less just a run through. Nothing too crazy. Like I said, we're going to be grabbing things. We are going to be remembering... I don't know why I was struggling there for a second. Remembering the Chrysalis Tooth while we're in Warlock's Wilds. We will remember the Edge of Entropy later on, so just bear with me there. But for now, we're just going to have to first get there in order to get what we need.
The way was impassable. The quest
Now, the
now
first time I had
impossible.
attempted to do this, I did mess up,
Suddenly,
and
and for
I
no
did
reason
leave
at
Nom's
all,
clone
and without
alive,
implying any
and he was
third-party emotional
attacking me from
attachment.
Nom's
Oh,
arena all the way to right
brilliant.
here at the
Fine.
rainbow, which I thought was crazy. I really should have kept that clip, but I didn't. It would have been really funny just to see boulders flying at me and flying discs and green poison darts. But another thing that I end up doing, since we're not doing any NPC quest lines, I make use of that and I grab Blade the Bold's icon just here next to the shortcut back to Orshaft Village from Warlock's Wilds. As you'll see, I make an immediate run for it because this will give us another use of healing. Thankfully, it's not too far away, otherwise the time might not be worth it. As you'll see. And we'll find it right here. And then we'll immediately end up using it just up ahead at the beacon at Warlock's Wilds. Just gotta get back to it. But like I said, for the most part, Warlock's Wilds is pretty easy. It's just, when you've just starting out, it can be confusing as it's a bunch of looping back and shortcuts on top of shortcuts, or connected areas that just lead to where you're not just ready for them to be connected to. So you might get a little lost or confused at times. So here we're going to return both of the icons, as you'll see. I don't know why I tether right here, but I do. So we return both of them, so now we have 6 overall healing. And then once again, we just put everything into source. So now from here, we're going to make our way through. I did try and have it where the segments are very connected, like exactly where I stopped is exactly where I pick right back from. That enemy dropping that item, I was really hoping is going to be some access, but it wasn't. But the main thing about Warlock's Wilds is you have to get these tokens in order to activate the paths, in order to progress through the area, as well as the side objective that we're going to be doing. So there's 4 token of youthful operations that we'll need to grab along the way. I show you how to grab all of them and all of that. So don't worry, you're not missing out. Here, once again, I try and deal with these enemies, hoping I can maybe get some access since they're already aggroed onto me. But I don't think I get lucky here. That's too bad, so we move on. Now in the speedrun, I know that he does, in this first area, he picks up another source item that you can grab that kind of temporarily stuns and damages enemies in a proximity around you. He does it in a few areas where you can have a bunch of enemies on top of you. I opted not to do that and just chose for trying to get better paths. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's really just up to enemy AI. So coming here into the secondary area of Warlock's Wilds, I then kind of run up onto this little hill to target the little kid, as you'll see right there. That will drop the second token of UFO operation. Then I simply just run past everything. Now in the speedrun, he does grab the shield right here, the servant shield. I completely skip seeing him even use it or when he equips it. That's just on me, but if he does, then he does. I just end up using the Shield of Inspiration throughout the whole run. So here, instead of trying to opt to activate the lights, which would cause a cutscene, and would reset all the enemies, I just take the safer route and take them out instead of getting backstabbed, because that will be a lot of damage. As you'll see. So then I can now safely heal up. I grab this. Sadly, it's a loaded die and not access. Now from here we have quite a bit of a run. As you'll see, just up ahead is where we're going to remember the chrysalis tooth. I do try and manipulate the enemies in a way that makes it easy for me to do this. The main one is this big guy right here. Luckily, he went for a charge, and the chrysalis tooth is towards the top of the menu. Sadly, while this is going on, you can't exit out of the screen. I learned that as I was doing it. But anyways, we now make our way up the path and then come off to the left. We grab at least 2 souls along the way. Coming into this like little village area, I thought that this was an enemy, and thus it led to me getting backstabbed. Like I said, if an enemy is present and right on me, then obviously I'm going to try and take them out for some easy cash. As you'll see, this one was able to stop me from climbing the ladder, which I'd never had happen before and was annoying. But anyways, I decided to just deal with it and let him go. I see the skeletons coming and I don't really want to deal with it, so I'm just like, alright, let's just move on. Here I should have stopped and turned around to deal with the guy coming right behind me. As you'll see, once again, another critical hit on me. I am not having fun. He starts running away and he gets stuck, so I'm like, okay. This is an enemy. I don't know why that didn't count as a hit. I still take damage. So here we have our third token of youthful operation. I grabbed this armor set, but I never ever swap to it or use it. Here I drop down, and this rune is okay if you need some more healing from your hero icon. I immediately swap over to it. But from here we're going to take kind of a unique path to reach the third tower, which is just right next to us. I forget what this is, but oh well. Then from here I basically just head on up. We grab a safety beacon just up ahead here, as you'll see. We grab our second level upgrade for our weapon. We'll need at least, I think, 1 more just to even upgrade it. So I grab this beacon. Rest at it so I can reset and get my healing back. I summon the blacksmith because I thought 1 was maybe enough, to then find out no, I was wrong. I don't know why I thought that.
Huh? This still don't matter. I might be.
As you'll see, I go and look, and it's like, it's 2. Oh well. Then I check out the infusion and see if it's even worth it, or if it would have been better. And I was like, no. Oh well. So now we head on up, and we'll activate the third tower, as you'll see.
Such peculiar posture. Such a ridiculous gait. Was there a humility implicit in its frame? A humility so long ago forsaken.
And there we go. Third tower. Once again, another cutscene connected to us. So if we had any enemies chasing us, they now aren't, thankfully.
Beyond these wild.
Now from here we're going to actually start the Innocent Ones questline, so now we have to take out a unique NPC enemy right here. As you'll see, it's the butterfly lady. We'll quickly deal with her to get her wings so we can navigate the maze down below to reach the old crone and to start the Innocent Ones questline, which we do just after this. As you'll see, we try and quickly take her out. There we go. Upon doing that though, you'll get 13,000 souls, which is really good. So from here we run this very specific path to get us back to where we need to go as quickly as possible. As you'll see, there's the old man. There we are. Then we'll immediately backtrack down the path. As you'll see, there's the lemonade stand. And just over here we have this log that we can head down that leads to the maze. As you'll see, just like so. Now I do end up getting lost just because, like I've said before, they didn't really do this part quite well to make it easy to navigate and know you're going in the right path. As you'll see, the lights kind of just fade away. So if you do get lost, that's fine. You basically just want to run straight and keep running straight for a little bit. They really don't make it easy to see. First I thought, oh, is that the way? I was like, no, wait, no, that's the way I came. So yeah, you basically just want to kind of keep running a little bit more forward past that last light, and then they'll kind of be off to the right. Then you make like a weird like U-turn. I don't get it. Now I will state while we're here that there is an issue related to when you do this part of the quest and the old crone for some reason won't talk to you. You basically can just rerun through this area after you do that, and she should start talking again. As you'll see though, if you basically just leave the area and then reload and come back, then it should be all good. But yeah, you should, like, after you give the innocent one the maiden crone's gourd and then come back to this hut, if she's not talking to you, you basically just will go back through the maze that we just went through to get back to this. Don't take this shortcut we unlock right here. So now what I'm going to do is immediately take that gourd and give it to the innocent one. It's definitely a lot, for sure. But once you know how to navigate all these little backwards paths, it shouldn't be too bad. Thankfully, the innocent one is kind of close to where we exit out. Just be careful about levitating on top of the elevator. There are some weird things that happen with these elevators, so just be careful. So from here we'll exit on out. I deal with this enemy, drops us some access, find a fireplace stone, and then I also come up here and grab the prickly pear code, as you'll see right here. And this actually does come in, or it's not prickly pear, prickly mirror code, but it does become important later on. So I do actually put it to use. It was like one of the few source codes I was like, I have to get that if I'm doing this, because there are some bosses that kind of don't give you a lot of breather room, and it's extra source damage. And then while I'm here, I just decide I'm going to just take out all these enemies. I just don't feel like quitting out at this point to reset everything. So that's exactly what I do. take out this last enemy that I need to deal with. There we go. Then from here we find the innocent one. We give him the gourd. And then we just fireplace stone back to the last beacon. Alright, so now we're going to be heading back to Warlock's Wilds after making that long trek back to Orshaft Village. Obviously, if you need to quit out to make it safe for you, then by all means do so. As you can see here, I now actually have enough materials to upgrade my weapon one more time, and then I'm also going to spend the souls that I have and just once again put them all into source, getting us almost to 40. Crazy. But as you guys have probably seen, the source damage is quite a lot. So now from here we can run the same path that we ran just before to then make our way through Warlock's Wilds once and for all. Trust me, it is definitely a lot of running and a lot of time. But as you can see, for the most part, yes, you can just more or less run through everything from here till we get to the Keep of the Stolen Crown. As you can see right now, though, I'm trying to see if the old crone has come back, and like I said before, if this happens, there are two things that you can do. One of which is to re-enter the maze and see if that works. As you can see, I tried quitting out and then reloading, and it doesn't do anything. Bummer. But for the most part, another option that you can do is you can just progress through the Keep of the Stolen Crown, and since you already have to come back through Warlock's Wilds, it should be active then. If it's still not active then by all means you just have to, like I said, go back through the butterfly light up maze to get here. As you can see, I'm still not getting a prompt, so I just make my way and be on. Nothing too terrible about that. Like I said, it's not going to ruin anything. You're not going to get, you're not going to lose on anything. It's just a bit of inconvenience. Seriously, there we go. Okay. Go on, cat. Sorry about that. She was wanting some attention. But as you can see right here, following the main path, we can then snipe that 4th token of youthful operation and head on up through the tower, which is pretty nice overall, I'd say. Don't really get too many of those, so we take what we can get. And there we go. There's our 4th and final one. Like I said, nothing too crazy about it. But, like I said, pretty much just a straightforward path from here going forward. Not going to really be missing out too much on anything. Nothing to really grab as well. Just got to be careful not to get hit by anything too crazy. And then you should be fine.
What so many cycles had crumbled, might it yet be restored? Dare the narrator hope?
And now we're here at the Keep of the Stolen Crown. Now, for the most part, like I said, we're just going to be running through. We're going to grab this soul right here. That way we can just quickly be on our way. There's not too much to grab on our way up to the Keep of the Stolen Crown, as well as the rehabilitation pits. It's more of just two areas we kind of have to get through to eventually get to where we're going. Sadly. But overall, it's not the worst. Definitely could be a whole lot worser, I'd say. That was a close one, for sure. Don't want to also take a wrong turn here in the maze, like I am right before. And you also want to make sure that while this gate is loading, that these enemies aren't trailing too close behind you, otherwise that can spell doom in some regards. There we go. Now, as you'll see, I forgot to pick up the torch, so I have to head back up. As you can see, I'm trying to figure out, well, where to go. I know I picked it up. I could have swore I hit X on it. But as you'll see, I did not. Now, I do make the mistake of not grabbing this safety beacon just right here, right next to us. Instead, I think I can make the run through it, and as you'll see, that will bite me in the ass in just a moment. So as we make our way through the rehabilitation pits, as you'll see, it's more or less a straightforward path. There's not too much. It's just about knowing the path. Now, you also want to make sure that your stamina management is key when going through this area, as you want to make sure that you have the opportunity to have some nice quick roll dodges and that you don't get swiped like I did just there, and then get chain backstabbed upon getting up. As you'll see, not getting that safety beacon immediately comes back to bite me. But that's okay. From here, I will continue on. I basically have to run through the area all over again, sadly. But thankfully this time I have my torch. The only thing I kind of wish that would be possible when doing this, all this running, is to be able to hold your shield up in case an enemy does randomly jump and attack you or swing at you from an area you can't see. It would definitely make it a lot easier. But overall, it's not too bad. Like I said, it could easily be a lot worse. But that's what death number 4, 5. Either way, as you'll see, even with this many deaths, it's still quite achievable. Hopefully this time I have a much better run through the rehabilitation pits. And as you'll see, I do grab the safety beacon just in case something happens again. That way I don't have that much longer that I have to go through. So from here, once again, I'm just going to make my way through, make the run up. And I know this time for sure I have a much better interaction from the dog just up ahead. As you'll see, he's not even anywhere near me, and it allows me to have a much better run through this area. So heading on in here, we do have to attack this one enemy just once to get him enough out of the way. Then immediately follow this by dropping down. There we go. And as you'll see, just like that, we'll then start making our way up even more. Grab this memory while we're at it, and we're almost home free out of the rehabilitation pits.
Your kind once upheld all worth saving. They ushered change to that worth changing. 'Twas not always their own wills they served.
Now once we're up here, we're immediately going to come off to this side room on the left. There's 3 things we're going to grab, 2 souls and a lot of access. As you'll see, you do have to break away most of the rubble to get it. But here you'll get 20 access after getting that soul, and then we'll come to the other side. Not sure why I couldn't break that vase, it's like it was made of titanium. But then from here we'll basically get ourselves a safety net. We'll reset at this beacon here. There we go. Consume all of our souls. And now we're probably going to enter the hardest section, in my opinion. So once we enter, we'll then need to head on up. We'll dodge this greatsword guy, who will come back to, once again, kind of stick it to me later on. But from here, we're basically just going to head up the left side, immediately turn around, and I do fail this skip to get to the lever like a couple times. I don't know why I keep trying it after the first attempt. I think I can get it again, and I'm just like, I know I can, but nope. So I think I resigned to doing it the normal way this time. Which is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. So now we activate the lever like normal. There we go. Dodge everything without dying. There we go.
Nostalgaia once loved you. Loved heroes, I mean. But you betrayed us. The betrayal
Keep
of
following
heroes,
this
I mean.
path up. Grab a fireplace stone. Like I said, you never know. Then we'll hit this lever here, and then we'll actually backtrack all the way down. We'll get a safety heal just around this corner. There we are. Now we'll get to probably the most annoying part, and that's this triple stairway. Once we're up here, we'll need to activate this first switch to then activate the last switch. Then we head back down to activate the first switch, as you'll see right here. Take a bit of damage, but now we'll activate the second switch, as you'll see right here. Avoid all of these enemies here somehow. Heal up just to be safe. There we go.
This keep is rank with conviction and pride. Perhaps your patheticness preserves you from such folly. That was a compliment.
No, I'm actually going to skip the beacon for the most part in this area and just make a mad dash all the way through. As you can see here.
So very far, the charming bundle of sticks had come. The king ever closer with each pixelated step. Was it truly happening?
Purify your flesh. Purify your heart.
For the most part, running through this area can be a little bit dangerous, as you'll see. I just got hit there, but I'm still able to get out of it without any issues. But still, it can suck. Once I have the opportunity, then I'm going to gladly heal up and then continue forward.
Beg for guidance from those who have not strayed.
There we go. Come and grab the souls here in the corner. As you see, if you, or not souls, access. If you bait out the enemy, it makes it a lot easier to then grab the item that we need. There we go. Grab the souls right there. Grab some more access, and then we'll actually go around the back, as you'll see, like so.
Salvation comes from the outside in. Do not waver. Nostalgaia has forgotten her traditions. Force them upon her.
And then it should just be a pretty straightforward run to get to
spry, minimalist silhouette scaled the monolith.
this upper area here. Grab some access.
The narrator believed the awesome stick figure crashed upon them like
Come down
almighty
here for a
thunder.
fragment
Rip
of
them to
tradition.
ribbons, my good fellow.
While we're on the elevator, we will gladly use our souls that we're about to then use as well. Then we'll finally rest at this beacon here. Now from here we're going to then head on up, take on the boss. Now the next pattern that you're mainly going to see emerging from the bosses going forward is kind of a mixture between melee and ranged combat. As you'll see, it's best to try and lure them in and deal damage with melee, and then when you can bait an opening to then get the ranged is when you want to go for it. Now that can be kind of troublesome, but for the most part it's As long as you're patient enough, it should pay off consistently.
The threshold of the fanatic sacristy, last of the great one lieutenants, almighty
But
Gaia.
as you can see, I'm trying to set up and get ready for everything, and then I kind of mess it up. Anyways, like I said, the prickly mirror code, it's just supposed to be passive. But now we have our next boss, Wonder Schonenberg. As you'll see, our shield can tank her hits if we really needed to. But also, we do somewhat okay damage. Just like before, though, I do get careless, and I do eventually die during this fight. As you see, I almost die right there. Now, another thing, like most of these bosses, like any Souls game, is if you are about to die and you have taken damage, it's best to not immediately try and rush in to heal, but like I said before, to bait into an attack that will give you the opportunity to heal. If you don't, then it can result in you just immediately dying. And as you'll see later on, I get careless. As you can see, though, doing quite well overall. There we go. Overall, she's not that bad of a fight. It's just getting the attack pattern you want. If it's anything involving her whip, as you'll see, it's not going to go well. At least for me. Her range attacks and her source attacks aren't too terrible. They are more or less well telegraphed, except for her running slash attack. And as you'll see, just like that, I end up going down. Got too greedy. But oh well. It is what it is. So once again, we'll then make our way back, and we encounter some issues and unexpected things along the way. As you'll see here in just a moment, I accidentally somehow glitch into the elevator and then fall through. I try and quit out to save myself, but it doesn't work. I'm sorry for anybody who has epilepsy or might suffer from a seizure. I definitely was not ready for that to happen either. Thankfully, I don't suffer from either of those conditions. But it was definitely unfortunate because it immediately kills me and I'm just dead, as you can see right here. And I fall to my death. A unexpected game over, for sure. But now, a little mad and invigorated, I make my way up, and I'm finally ready to take on Wonder Schonenberg. At least the elevator ride this time wasn't too bad. I found like standing directly on the little pressure pad that activates the elevator does the best job in terms of getting it going. If that makes any sense. Like if you are standing directly on that center square, then you're probably not going to fall off. I think I was just not perfectly on it, and that led to that issue of me dying. Which sucks, definitely, for sure. But now we have our wonderful rematch. Another issue that I found with Wonder Schonenberg is she is quite agile, and that makes it very hard to hit her with our ranged ability. So sometimes this fight is best mixed with, like I said before, just getting in those good baits for those attacks that leave her open. That attack right there is the one that always normally gets me. And sometimes that one there too. 2 back-to-back source attacks is definitely cause for trouble. And as you'll see, once again, not getting those good attacks. And I don't know why I perfectly dodged right into that attack, but I did. There we go. Like I said, you just want to be patient for this fight. If you can get that attack or the one where she stomps down, she can sometimes chain those, but you have to be very close to her, and that puts you at a high risk of getting slapped with a whip. So I would just rather not. But you know, that's just me. But once again, just making sure to be patient, bait in the attacks that we want, and not dodge directly into her swings, and I think would be fine. And, you know, probably not dying a second time. As you can see, this time, instead of panicking, I'm now trying to really bait her in for one of those combos that will leave her open and give me a chance. As you can see right there. As long as she's not using a source attack, our shield can pretty much block everything that she has. So me now being precautious, I'm wanting to make sure that I am topped off in case anything happens. Now for the most part, I could probably have used the prickly mirror code to my advantage a little more here during this fight, but I was more focused on just the ranged and melee aspect of it instead of the kind of all three. But we're still able to take her down. Surprisingly, she never once did her backflip 3 spread combo to where she will jump backwards and throw 3 darts forward, doing that I believe twice. But she goes down. And we get our next icon. Huzzah!
Restore him. What have you done? Evil sticks! Ruination of tradition! Breaker of meaning! Your story is over. Roll credits. Stop!
This hero's story endures.
Anyways, now that we can continue our game, we'll now head all the way back down. And finally leave the Keep of the Stolen Crown. As you can see, I have nothing else to do but wait and spam my shield. After the elevator ride, you can definitely tell I'm making sure I'm on the pressure pads every single time. Not trying to die again. And then we have one last elevator to take down. And here you go. Like I said, he was going to return, and surprise, surprise, here he is. Surprisingly, he was hot on my trail. And just like that, boom, I go down. Now the weird part is, when I died right here, I somehow teleported to the beacon just outside. As you'll see right here, I was like, wait, what? What just happened? Why am I right here? Even though I'd rested at the beacon up top. I thought it was weird, but I wasn't going to question it if the game was going to give it to me for free. No point in complaining about it. So from here, it's more or less just five more fights left of the game overall. It's not the worst. But from here, we're going to continue the main story and talk to the old man. And then we'll meet him at the little backroom area in Warlock Wilds. There we are. Thankfully, from where we drop down to where we have to go is incredibly short. But as you'll see right here, I'm now able to head back to the old crone, and she'll actually interact with me, and I'm able to talk to her and continue the quest line for the innocent one. As you'll see, there we go. Like I said before, if this doesn't happen after leaving the area and coming back, you just have to re-enter the maze. I had looked into this, and that was a couple of answers, or a couple people had come to the same conclusion or had found the same solution. So now we're going to head all the way down and meet our friend at the entrance to NPC City through the back rooms. That's what I've nicknamed this little area here. As you'll see, through this door we have yet to open, we can finally make it to him. And now we'll gain our last ability that we'll need for the playthrough. And then we'll immediately take the wrong way. As you'll see, I was meaning to head back to Orshaft Village. I read Warlock's Wilds and thought, oh, there should be a door that'll lead somewhere. And then I realized both of these doors lead to the area I don't want to go, which is just great. As you'll see, as soon as I see that loading screen, I'm just like, yep, nope, that's the wrong way. Now we're stuck waiting for a couple of seconds. There we go. And then I see this one and I immediately am just like, wait, no, this is the wrong one too. I know it. I didn't want to believe it at the time, but here we are. Like, as you can see and as I've been saying, despite how many deaths I've had and how many mistakes I'm making, the speedrun is still achievable. 5 hours is easily doable. It does seem like a short amount of time, especially in connection to a Souls-like game. Those are notoriously known for not being casual or speedrun friendly for the most part. but at most I think a little under 3 hours is still a decent speedrun for a casual playthrough. So now we finally head back to Orshaft Village. Now, also to mention, since I'm doing an NPC quest line as well, that is adding on to this time. So if you're not wanting to do this, you can just do the speedrun and then beat Mercutio, and that will probably save you a good like 30 to 45 minutes, give or take, depending on how long it takes you to do it. But basically having to kill the butterfly, go through the maze, get the Older Crone gourd. As you can see, I almost have a heart attack here with my character and this elevator not syncing properly. Me and elevators today, for sure. But anyways, so you know, not having to go through the maze, not having to go and backtrack all the way to Orshaft Village, just being able to run through everything to get where you need to go definitely will help. So as you'll see here, I had opened up both shortcuts, and I forget to take the one to my right that would lead me up top and would save me some time. Instead, I decide, oh, I'm going to run through all of Orshaft again, just because I had forgotten and pulled a brain fart. Because I was thinking, oh yeah, did I get the one from the depths to Orshaft Village, which would have been even faster? No, I didn't get that one either. So I was like, well, I'm just going to have to run through it anyways. And yes. Yes, I am. Now, like I said, if you did get the shortcuts and remember, by all means, use them. Don't do what I'm doing right now. But overall, it's still not too bad. Because all we're needing to do is remember the Edge of Entropy weapon to progress the Innocent One's questline. Because remember, you have to remember the Chrysalis Tooth in Warlock's Wilds, and now we have to remember the Edge of Entropy, which will then allow us to remember the third and final weapon that we'll need to continue that quest. Now, as you can see, even if you never fight them, they're still just chilling here without a care in the world. Then from here, we're just going to head off to the right, go flat against this little bridge right here, as you'll see once it loads. Yes, a bit annoying, I know. Normally, if you were doing Lady So's quest line, you would then encounter her here, ambushing you, trying to take you out. But for the sake of things, she's not. So here we can remember the Edge of Entropy weapon. Ta-da! And then we can be on our way back, and then I'm going to once again run through Warlock's Wilds to get to NPC City. Trust me, it's a lot of running, I know. But in terms of how I would recommend watching this video is exactly like how I did the speedrun video. I would just watch this in segments. You can always save and quit out, and that won't affect the amount of playtime that you have in regards to the speedrun. So, like what I did is going through each area. If you don't want to do the PvE mode and you've already gotten that achievement, congratulations, you're a lot better than I am. Or you realized you don't need to do NPC stuff like I did, or whatever. I was just playing it safe. for the sake of it. But if you already got the PvE achievement or trophy, congrats, you don't need to do all this extra work like I am. You can just speedrun the game normally. If not, then like I said, just watch this video in chunks to just take in the information that you need when you need it, then pause the video, then just do exactly what I did, or run through at your own pace. Like I said, if you need to kill enemies, kill them. You know, don't just speed run through and risk dying multiple times if it's not going to pay off. So now we can finally enter. It would have sucked if I ended up dying right there, but thankfully I didn't.
Confront the narrator and cut the strings with which he binds you. Fly, you fool!
Now we have once again another elevator that I have to interact with, and I'm
You
just
seek to
crying.
confront the power of story? Leave me to my misery.
Once here, though, we're going to immediately grab the shortcut back to the Hall of Heroes. That way we have a beacon close by. As you'll see right here. Once it loads, of course. As you see, the thing I like to do the most is just spam my shield. Thankfully, NPC City and the start of sequence are pretty straightforward. In terms of just how you progress through them. We're not grabbing too much. At this point, the build is pretty much set in stone and ready to go. So now it's just about achieving what we need. We know what we need to do. We just have to do it and not make too many mistakes. Because as of now, you can't check how long your save is, sadly. So like, at this point, I don't know if I've been playing for 2 hours, if I've been playing 3 hours. I don't know how long this save has been going, and that's like the biggest downside. So the main thing that I know while here in NPC City is that I need to grab our last and final weapon that we need to get, and then we're also going to need to remember it as well. So for the most part, as you can see, I'm just running through. Nothing too crazy. At this point, I'd already paused the speedrun and was no longer watching it, as I had pretty much knew the route that I needed to run for the rest of the game, for the most part. Any extra souls and stuff along the way, I more or less just distributed however I thought I might need it. If I thought I was taking too much damage or at risk of getting one shot by too many enemies, then obviously I'd give myself health. Thought it was a really good idea to risk this memory of a corrupt hero, and it somewhat paid off. So now, just as you'll see right up ahead, we are making our way to get the weapon that we need, the Stern Glare. So coming into this house and following it up and heading out the back, as you'll see right here. And just around this corner is the weapon. Now we can easily just drop down here. We grab some tin access that we might need. I guess one of the enemies fell to his death and it credited me for it. So I got a free weapon. Now from here we're going to summon our last blacksmith location and activate him for the last time to upgrade our weapon to +5. As you'll see, we get it to that, and then we get it one more to +5.
I feel like a real...
Now we could eventually get it further, but at this point I think I was good to go. I'd probably say the only other thing I wish I could have probably gotten would have been maybe my shield. But like I said, the shield was doing just fine. The only thing that it wasn't doing great against was source damage. So from here, we're going to just try and run past all these enemies who are Michael Jacksoning really good on us. Then we have a very close moment, as you'll see right here, where we get double hit, but somehow it didn't kill us, thankfully.
Every
Here
hero
we're going
spawned
to
upon
warp or
nostalgaia.
loop back to
I
grab our
told
second
their
shortcut back to
tale,
the Hall of
defying
Heroes,
their
Grace,
tellings. This is
Beacon,
the end
Bonfire,
of your
whatever you want to
story.
call it, as you'll see right here. Ta-da! I think I have enough now that it should be fine and that I can heal whatever damage may come my way. Thankfully, the next beacon is kind of close to us, so it's not too far of a run. We grab this memory, because why not? Now, the start of sequence is just like NPC City. It's more or less pretty straightforward, but the
we
only
loathe
difference is
you.
now you have enemies that can kind of teleport directly onto you, and that does make it pretty hard. This enemy in particular right here, as you'll see, will just teleport right behind.
Coward! You
As you'll see, I
coward!
have a moment here where I about crapped my pants. I thought I fell to my death again. Then this guy is basically not letting me go. Luckily, though, I got 15 access, which does come in handy later on. Now, for the most part, I don't get faked out by this beacon, as you'll see. But I still get hit too much and almost die again.
I trusted you.
Thankfully, from
I
here,
believed in
I basically
you.
just keep
Suddenly,
trading
get
with this
stabbed in
guy
the
until
back,
he
Sticky.
finally just wants to let me go. We're almost there, as I know it's right through this door, as you'll see right here. Then instead of quitting out, I decide I want to just fight everything, because why not? I see the drop, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know, it might be worth it if I can get some more access, because, like I said, any extra access that we can get is always going to be nice. The issue is these guys definitely hit pretty hard, and for some reason, sometimes the hitbox validation on this game is a little wonky, as there's times where if you're on a staircase or an elevated surface above an enemy, the hit just won't register, and they get to attack you for free. Which, I don't understand why. Now, this next area is definitely one that you have to be careful with. As you'll see, I'm about to die in a stupid way. I think I can just rush through and that nothing's going to happen. Get shot in the face immediately. I then try and
You
make
would milk
this
every last ounce of decency from our world.
quickly as I
shan't
can,
allow you.
and I just get
Suddenly,
sniped. A bit unfortunate. Just too many snipers to run past. It might have helped if I actually ran in a serpentine pattern, but oh well. Thankfully, it was just one room away from the beacon. So all I do is pretty much decide to take out a couple of the archers to give myself some freedom. Immediately don't want to get teleported on too many times again. I grab the memory, make the roll just barely, and this time it's definitely a much different experience going forward. I still get some shots on me. There we go. Now we'll take the left ladder to progress through. The other two just lead to side stuff, nothing main.
all right. It is a tutorial, so time for your
Now I do know in the
training.
speedrun that they actually skip pretty much the entirety of the start of sequence, which is crazy because the arena boss or part of it is very close to a part of this area as well. But getting through the train room isn't that hard. Once again, it's just the teleporting enemy who can just be
Your
right on top of
treachery
you.
has moved me to
Then we
action.
drop down
Oh,
here
has it moved me?
and make our way to the next
Moved
beacon.
me.
Running past all these enemies, and we'll just come to the right here, and then we go to the left. No, to the left. There we go. Now, the main thing from here is that I need to get to the next beacon and sit at it to have it be the last one I sat at. And then we're also going to make our way all the way back to the Heartflow altar to remember the Stern Glare. So now that I know that those are the two things I need to do, I now just have to figure out, okay, how do I run this to make it possible? I honestly thought right here that I was dead because of the lag that happened, but thankfully I didn't die.
Cowpocalypse!
Thankfully from here it's just a straightforward to the next beacon. You can run past everything, as you'll see right here.
Would you know the truth of your perversion? Would you see the
When he
substance
teleported
of
on, I was
what
like, whoa,
you
what's
are?
going on here?
Then
And then he
come
kept
to
like
me.
teleporting around. It was like crazy. But sadly he follows us up, so we can't light the beacon, so we have to deal with him. So that's what we're gonna do. Kept waiting for him to teleport or anything. As you'll see, the weapon does decent damage, but it's just at times, as you'll see. So now that we have this beacon and we're ready to go, now it's just about running all the way back to Heartflow Altar, which, yeah, it doesn't sound fun at all. But thankfully it is more or less just that. It's just a run. So once again we're now going to run past everything, and then we'll enter this building here on the right, head up the stairs, and we'll take this area on the left here.
Flee, flee
This
from
basically
your
takes us all the way
doom.
back to the Keep of the Stolen Crown,
Always
which is like the furthest place from Heartflow Altar. But it's the only path that we have available, sadly. So once again we now have to head on up, and then we'll head on down. And I bet you can't guess who I've already forgotten about once again until the moment that they're there. Yep, you're probably right. Thankfully though, he can't follow us. He doesn't aggro from this far away. But as soon as I opened that door, I was like, oh no, I didn't kill him. I hope he's not there. But thankfully, this time, the trek down isn't as long or as terrible as some of the others have been. Still long, I know. And then, you know, you get the white wall of, hold on. There we go. One more time to drop down in this playthrough, thankfully. Then from here we'll enter the back rooms one more time. Probably not the last time, but you never know. And now this time we can actually take this elevator to our left and take this all the way down. And once it loads, bam, there we go. Head off to the right, and as you'll see, we'll be back here at the Heartflow altar. And then now once we're here, we can finally remember the stern glare. And then just like before, we can always use our fireplace stone and head back to the last beacon that we were just at. It's just so much fun. Alright, now we're going to be heading on back to take on the narrator. This is probably the fight that is the most annoying to me. Excuse me.
I hate you. And I do know what you are. Let me spin a tale to show you. Your journey here
So starting
was
off, this is
easy.
a 4-phase boss. The first phase is just a refight of the grinder, but they go down in like 2 hits or 1 if you're using a source. Now the actual main fight of this first phase is probably the most annoying. You have this souped up miner who can deal a bunch of source damage, which we don't exactly have a bunch of defense to. And as you can see, he has some pretty strong attacks. The one attack that is always guaranteed to kill me is when he starts throwing the axe. As you'll know, this is also the only stage of the fight that you want to take as much caution as you can to try and deal with. But if you can get through this stage, then you should be fine. As you'll see right there, he one-shots me. Normally, it's also a chance for it to be 2,000. But for the most part, I do think I take 2 deaths to this fight. And it is frustrating, of course, like I said, just dealing with that. But we attempt again.
Your journey here was easy.
There we go.
Nostalgaia holds
Try and
the
re-grab
grudge.
my
What if
stuff
the
that's
story
basically
had
just
held nothing
meaningless. As you'll see, he can also do a triple throw, which immediately sends me back to the beacon. Once again, another quick death, sadly. But we go back and try again, because we're still
Your
on okay
journey here
pace.
was easy. See,
No playing around this time. Because like I said, once you can get past this first phase, the rest are pretty easy to deal with. As you'll see, though, it's still a quick death. Even regardless, it's just a cheap move that I am terrible at dealing with. But I do believe the fourth attempt now is the one that does succeed. Luckily, the deaths are quick. It's not like I make it to the end of the boss fight and then die. It's just at the start.
Your journey here was easy. See? Not bad.
I don't know why I started messing around with that other shield that I picked up. As you'll see, I can at least dodge or block one of those before he tries to take me out. I just resort to using the ranged source attacks as much as I can. Pretty much, I think I use that for the majority of this boss fight. As you'll see, whenever he does that quick running motion is when it's most important to be wary of dodging either to the left or the right. It's basically like most boss attacks where you're just trying to figure out what pattern is what, and then once you get that down, then it's just about dealing with it. As you'll see, I do take a hit here. Gonna safety heal up. Thankfully, we got a good attack to deal with. Whenever he does these like 4 or 5 melee combos, or he does the overhead slam, it's best, or even that lunge just now, I got too greedy and I tried going for a melee finisher to save on some access. Then we'll move on to the second part. For some reason, all of the little children enemies here didn't spawn for some reason, so I got to take this first one out for free. There's the rest of them. As you'll see, there's just only 5 enemies in total. But regardless, you can still get overwhelmed and take a bunch of damage. As you'll see, that was just 1 hit. As you can see, that hit detection being as wonderful as ever. Than me putting the wrong input and accidentally using an access when I really didn't want to. Then we have the third phase of this boss where you basically just fight yourself, and as you can see, like most of the other fights, it's just baiting them into attacking and then using our source to deal damage. Or if you really want to, you can just melee this fight. But as you can see, I take a lot of damage. Now, another thing that is probably super late to say that you could have ended up doing is after getting this armor in Orshaft Village, immediately remembering it at the Nom statue in the center square. But I decided not to do that. For reasons unknown, but I just figured it wouldn't be necessary. Once again, sorry about the sniffling and the sneezing. Cold's got me dealing with a runny nose. But now we're on to the end of this fight, and we have one more attack we have to do. As you'll see, and just like that, he goes down. I think it's 1 hit regardless.
I have hated what I feared you were, a hero. This story is no longer mine to tell. If ye truly be different than the rest of your kind, go to my study, find the plot threads therein, and sever them. Make your own tale. I see you now, last hero. One more. Pray.
And just like that, we are now finally done with the startup sequence. Now, as you'll see, this basically leads back to the other shortcut to the Hall of Heroes. And don't worry, we're immediately going to go to the narrator's little hidden area. So after a quick rest and distributing our levels into some more HP overall, we're now going to immediately take out this enemy that we never did to get the Hall of Heroes staging room key, which will allow us to go to this little side area here. We'll grab 11 access off this corpse and proceed on our way. As you'll see, I'm going to then re-equip the torch that we got from earlier. And then we're going to make our way down into this pipe that the narrator was so kind enough to open up. We'll just run past everything for the most part. Now, along the way, I am going to try and take out all of these enemies that I've come across, as they do have a decent chance of dropping more access that we need. As you'll see, though, I think I get a couple of good drops overall, which does help out in the long run. Nothing too crazy though, as you'll see. I could probably just skip past this if I really wanted to, but I thought that I was pretty low on access, so I decided not to risk it. A couple more that we take out before we enter the 5-phase arena boss. Now we're going to fight all of these guys that we've been running past since the start of the game, and as you'll see, overall their resistance to source is not good. But it's not going too terrible. Take out this guy. There we go. As you can see, as long as they don't have a shield, they don't really have a defense or a way to deal with our source damage, which does make it very easy to take them out. There we go. We do get some access for our troubles from one of them. We've only got 3 left, 2 in this first area, and then we'll get the last one later on. Like I said, them having a shield is a little bit annoying because you then have to bait them into attacking, of course. But once you can deal with that and then bait them and then get some successful counterattacks on them, it is pretty easy. As you'll see, I'm just trying to bait them in, hoping to get a decent chance. Do swap and trade for the most part. And then the last one for this first area is Robert Davis. Once again, a shield. There we are. Get another set of access though. Now we're heading on to the final part of this overall. And then we have finally made it to Brendan Merkel. Always mix up the two. But as you can see though, he goes down pretty easily. And then we cut the plot threads and be on our way to eventually unlock the last few bosses and unlock the last area that we need. So now we'll just use a fireplace stone to head back to the Hall of Heroes. Then from here we're just going to make our way to the Heartflow altar, as you'll see. And this will more or less be the not last beacon that we rest at. There is, I think, one more that we rest at the last actual area, but we come and find the innocent one waiting for us just up here. Like normal, we just go through all of the dialogue till he's repeating himself to make it easy. So from here we're going to immediately rest, deposit our souls, get some more levels. I should have probably put it into stamina, but oh well. Now we're going to immediately go and deal with the first secret boss of the game, and that is the actual Spirit of Heroism. Of course, after I consume all of these souls I've picked up. There we go. I think I can get one more level out of it. Yeah, one more level. It's not too bad. But from here, if we head back to the Hall of Heroes, it just makes it a lot easier to just have the Heartful altar as the next beacon. So once this loads, we'll then take them on. As you'll see, you can just come right to him. After challenging him, you'll want to try and just spam your dodge roll in a direction to avoid his attacks. Now, as you can see, throughout the first half of this fight, I'm mainly just trying to go for using my source ability as damage, and it does more or less backfire on me in certain occasions, as you'll see. The reason why I keep trying to go for it, though, is because the damage is nice, but his attack patterns are just a little too aggressive, and it can be very punishing, as you'll see. There are times where he'll just kind of walk towards you, which does give you some free damage, but as you can see, it can also be a pretty risky maneuver, going for it. So in some regards, it is sometimes best just to go for the melee strategy with him, and then when you get the guaranteed option to deal damage, you can. So here, when he brings out the riot shield, it's a good chance for damage, or if healing if need be. As you can see, at this point, I'm like, okay, let's see if I can just tank the hits with my shield, and then just not take damage. And then when I can use the source ability, and then I still mess up. Thankfully, I don't die during this fight. It might seem it with how low my health is, but overall, as long as the dodge rolls are good and the timing is right, then it does normally work out. I think towards the end here is when I finally just given up on trying to use it. Nope, not yet. There we go. And I somehow got hit by that, which is not fun. But overall, the fight's still going well. I think it's at this point that I'm just like, alright, I'm tired of trading with him, so I'm just going to face tank him and then go for the melee. As you can see, the melee damage is fine. And for the most part, we are doing okay. And then just like that, he will go down. Thankfully. Mind you, thankfully.
Harold, you have find the one.
So now we're going to continue and head back to the Heartflow altar to start up the process of unlocking the Reservoir of Pain as the last boss. Now, we're not quite ready to deal with him as we have one more boss to fight between them. So we're going to head down to the actual altar. Now, if the old man isn't present here, what you can do is just simply quit out and reload, and he will show back up.
The substance from which you and your kin are spawned. I could crush it. I could end it now. All heroes, you who weighed the world as though she were your servant, could cease to ever be. And the suffering can finally be obliterated. Such a fragile thing, this essence of you. But Herod is a type.
But thankfully he doesn't destroy our essence of heroism, but instead what we'll do is we'll just sacrifice ourselves.
Follow the...
Now from here we can finally make our way to take on the Pipe Layer, who is found after the Cthulhu head in Orshaft village. After speaking to the old crone and the innocent one, I'm going to rest one more time just to be safe before we make our way out. Now we're going to just make our way through. I just deal with this enemy while I'm at it, just because. Now for the most part, it is actually a straightforward run to get through pretty much all of the lair of the adversary, which is where the Pipe Layer is at. There's not too much combat that we actually have to do. Since we're not doing any NPC questlines, we don't have anyone just randomly waiting for us in the actual location. So as you'll see, I'm just running through Orshaft. It's quite similar to the run we first had, except we're taking a shortcut. I do have the opportunity to remember my armor set right now, but I once again think I don't need to. As you'll see, I'm just trying to avoid taking damage from any and all of these enemies here found along the main path. And for the most part, I'm doing quite a good job. The main obstacle, I'd say, is at the start of the entrance here. As you'll see with all these swinging pendulums, there is a risk of you getting hit and falling, which is not fun. As you'll see though, just taking it in strides, and if you think you're about to get hit, you can roll, and then this last section here is the one that's the most concerning. Right before the giant flaming ball, or flaming rock, I should say. But from here we do grab this safety beacon. I don't think I really needed it for the most part, but it's better to be sure to have the safety beacon than not, as some of the enemies have some very unique attacks in this area. So as you'll see, I'm pretty much running the straightforward path. Take a little bit of damage here. As you'll see, that attack pattern was not favorable. But from here, we can just roll through all of these tentacles. There we go. And as you'll see, I'm just going to run past pretty much everything that I can. Since we're too close to enemies, I couldn't even activate this beacon, and I didn't want to save and quit out, so as you'll see, I just decided to opt for going forward and run past everything. And it somewhat works out, I guess. But like I said, it's just a pretty straightforward run. There is a section where I do opt to take some damage to progress a lot faster than normal. I just think it's easier that way overall. Do get hit again here, sadly, but it's not like the enemies are fast enough to catch up, so I do have a chance to get a safety heal off. But from here we can just continue forward. Once again taking a ludicrous hit. But we're able to actually make it to this beacon and light it. Like I said, safety beacons never hurt. As you'll see, the slow motion effect in the background on that enemy. And instead, I just decided to opt to quit out. Not trying to risk too much. So from here, we can now actually rest at the beacon. And then we're just going to keep moving forward. Now, just up ahead is the area that I decide to run through just to save on some time. As you'll see, we have this area that has lava that will rise and lower to make it easier for us to get through. Once again, I'm getting hit by these attacks that I think I'm dodging, but I'm just dodging too early. So here, I just take the chip damage from the lava to make it through a little bit faster than normal, which is not too bad for the most part. Still sucks, but regardless. Now we're almost to the actual home stretch itself. Just a few little areas to get through, and then we have one more beacon that we do grab. As you'll see, we'll come up here, and then we'll head off to the right instead of heading off to the left to fight Mercutio. And as you'll see right here, we grab the last beacon that we haven't set at. I should probably specify. And once we're ready, we can proceed forward to take on Mercutio. Now, I do suffer one more death before the end of the game at Mercutio's hands. I try and do something that I see in the speedrun that gets done, and as you can probably imagine, it doesn't work out for me how I want it to, and it kind of backfires. So then I just decide to get good or deal with it the normal way. I guess it'd probably be the best way to describe it. But here we have Mercutio, and as you'll see, he's quite aggressive, but overall he's not too bad. He definitely has some quick attacks that, as you'll see right there, can be quite punishing indeed. But I think for the most part I'm going to let this play out. As you'll see, here in this corner is normally a spot where you can have Mercutio just kind of like run against you and you melee him. I decide to try and just see if you could tank his overhead attack, and he pretty much almost puts me at death, and then I do get it to work, but I make the mistake of thinking I could use my source ability to deal the damage to him when you have to actually melee him is what actually works. Which, hindsight's always going to be 20/20, and then I learn here you can't face tank his projectiles, which leads to a early death. I'm not really too mad about it. It is what it is, for the most part anyways. So we attempt it again, and this time we actually do have it end up going pretty well. but with a slow run or return to fight him again, we then prove this time that it was a mistake and that I can actually get good. So for the most part, I try and stick to just using a combination of melee and the source. As you can see, I have also will eventually use the the mirror code that I picked up all the way back in Orshaft Village. As you wouldn't think that it would do a lot of damage. Here you can see he has a couple of moves that definitely break your stamina a lot. So as of now, I think I'm just going to try and swap to a mixture between melee and having the prickly pear code do some decent damage to him. As you can see, his health bar slowly is draining when he's next to me and within range of the code. I think if it actually had a much better overall range, it would be better. Or at least a wider area of effect would be fine. But, oh well. You live and you learn. As you'll see though, I'm still a bit sloppy with this fight overall. But we do eventually take him down pretty easily. Decide to heal up. As this is the last main actual boss of the run. As the Reservoir of Pain isn't as tough as you might think, for him being the actual last boss that you can fight. But as you see from here, whenever he's small, it's not as hard to deal with him. But he will eventually heal up one more time, or try to. But he can't, so from now going forward, he'll remain small. Which isn't really that terrible. But during this phase, when I think I try and switch back to most of the source damage again. Or at least try and wail on him as much as I can with melee. You just have to be careful of his combos. They can be somewhat dangerous still, as you'll see right here. But we're slowly whittling at him till he's going down. Once again, I just bait attacks to try and stay as full HP as I possibly can. Whenever he does these like ranged attacks is the perfect opportunity to get in close. Thankfully, it's not a FromSoft game and you can't get hit out of this arena, which is nice. We've got him pretty low. Like I said, I am amateur at best at most of these fights for this game. Maybe I'll eventually do all of these fights without taking any damage and without blocking. But that is not this day. As you'll see, I switch back to using the pair code, and then I get a couple more shots in on him to finish him off. And just like that, he goes down. So then we position ourselves next to his throne. Now if you're just going for a pure speedrun, this would be the time to just get the ending for sitting on his throne. But if not, then that's perfectly fine. I will go over that in the last and final video, which will be another playthrough that you have to do, but I'll go into more detail on that once that is said and done. So now we just have a few things left to then set up and then activate the actual ending of the game. So once this loads, we can head back to the Heartflow altar. We'll speak to the old crone.
Seek the heart.
When she's repeating herself, I then know we're good to go. So now from here, we deposit our souls. I think I just go for more health, which at this point, it's why not. So now from here, we can head on down and we'll talk to the old man and proceed to finish the Innocent One's questline. If you haven't already done this questline, then this will get you the trophy for completing it. Sorry, had a burp. But once that is done, we can then proceed. Now you want to just only talk to the old man. If you talk to the Innocent One, you might risk having him join you for the fight against the Reservoir of Pain. So as you'll see, I immediately just ignore him, talk to the old man. Then I just immediately am ready to take down the Reservoir of Pain. So now we can confront him. With a bit of a loading, we then drop down and take him on. Now he's already prepared and trying to preemptively attack us. This man has no idea how to PvP. As you'll see though, source damage still does quite a lot. You can melee him. Both options work just fine. As you'll see, this fight is, for it being the last boss, it's really not that bad. You just have to be careful of the falling debris as you see, as it still can do damage. And then if he just tries to combo anything, and somehow that still hits us, sadly. After about halfway, he will start to crack. Doesn't change his patterns or anything, but still. There we go. Dodge that attack. As you'll see, he's almost down. The tracking on this, when it does work, is really nice. And that is the Reservoir of Pain. So after this, you should get the trophy for PvE mode for beating all bosses without summoning or using any NPCs to help you. And then once you actually get the ending and sacrifice yourself, you will then get the trophy for the speedrun. I believe I did this in a little under 3 hours. So once you do this right here, once you've activated this cutscene is when the game will count your overall runtime and you should get the trophy for the speedrun. This has been Mr. Pilgrim. I do hope that this guide has been helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form. As always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.